Right now, an algorithm you have never seen, built by a company you have never heard of, may have already decided whether you get a job, a loan, an apartment, or even bail from jail. And here is the terrifying part: nobody can fully explain why. This is the black box problem, and it is quietly reshaping human life at a scale most people have no idea about. Let me break this down fast because this affects you personally. An AI black box is any machine learning system where the inputs go in, a decision comes out, and even the engineers who built it cannot reliably trace the exact reasoning path in between. The model learned from millions of data points and built internal representations so complex that human language simply cannot describe what is happening inside. It is not a bug. It is literally how modern deep learning works. Now here is where it gets serious. In 2023, a study from MIT found that AI hiring tools used by over 55% of Fortune 500 companies were rejecting qualified candidates based on patterns that correlated with race and zip code, not skills. The companies using these tools had no idea this was happening because the vendors would not share the model internals, calling them proprietary trade secrets. Real people lost real jobs to a system that could not be questioned or appealed. In the lending world, it gets worse. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau reported in 2022 that millions of loan denials annually in the United States are driven by algorithmic scoring systems that cannot produce a human-readable explanation for the denial. The Fair Credit Reporting Act technically requires explainability, but the loophole is enormous. Vendors provide a list of 4 generic factors, completely detached from the actual model decision. In criminal justice, the COMPAS algorithm, used in over 24 U.S. states to predict recidivism risk and influence sentencing recommendations, was analyzed by ProPublica in a landmark 2016 investigation. They found it incorrectly flagged black defendants as high risk at nearly twice the rate of white defendants. The company Northpoint refused to release the model weights, citing intellectual property. Judges were using scores from a system nobody could audit to decide how long people stayed in prison. And this is accelerating. As of 2024, the EU Artificial Intelligence Act specifically bans certain high-risk black box applications, but enforcement mechanisms are still being built and American regulation lags years behind. The United Kingdom's Information Commissioner's Office has issued guidance but no binding rules with teeth. Meanwhile, OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Meta are deploying models of increasing complexity every single quarter. Explainable AI, sometimes called XAI, is the research field trying to solve this. Tools like LIME and SHAP attempt to approximate what a black box model is doing by testing it thousands of times and building a simpler explanation model around it. But here is the catch: these are approximations. They explain a model that explains another model. Researchers at Berkeley published work in 2023 showing SHAP explanations for the same decision can vary dramatically depending on the background dataset used. You are getting an explanation of an explanation, and it might be wrong. So what can you actually do? First, if you are denied credit, housing, or employment and an algorithm was involved, you have the right to request a human review under existing laws in many jurisdictions. Use it explicitly in writing. Second, support legislators pushing for algorithmic accountability laws that require genuine technical audits, not vendor self-reporting. Third, when using AI tools yourself, never treat their outputs as final answers on decisions that affect people's lives. The black box problem is not science fiction. It is happening in courtrooms, banks, and hiring offices today. The question is whether society will demand transparency before the systems become too embedded to challenge.